Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of Geostrategy with AbhijitChavda. This is going to be a slightly different episode from what I had earlier intended. I was supposed to discuss the Elon Musk and Donald Trump feud today and the US India relationship in depth. But a terrible thing has happened today, the plane crash in Ahmedabad. So I'm going to discuss that first. It's not quite a geostrategic, geopolitical incident as far as we know thus far. It's too early to tell, but I think it's worthwhile to discuss it in a certain amount of detail. So it's something that happened earlier today. uh, the news is still coming in as to what has happened, what are the details. We still don't quite know the causes, but let us discuss that in some detail. I have been a lifelong aviation enthusiast. I have some understanding about these issues. So let's take a look at what's happened, because what it looks like is, I just watched a news report, a news clip of the aircraft taking off from the runway. It's taking off, and then it clearly loses power, and before 60 seconds are out, it's crashed. So it's clearly a case of dual engine failure. That's an extraordinarily rare incident in aviation, when both, it's not just dual engine failure, it's simultaneous dual engine failure, which means that both the engines died at the same time. And that's incredible. That's almost unheard of. That it's not like it doesn't ever happen, but it's extremely rare. So let's discuss what has happened thus far, and let's put the details on the screen. One second, give me a second. I'll need to put that properly on the screen. Okay, here we have it. Here we have it. Okay. So what do we know about the incident thus far? So at Air India, Boeing 787 Dreamliner flight AI 171 crashed today shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad's international airport. It was bound for London. It was carrying 242 people, including 230 passengers, 2 pilots, and 10 cabin crew members. And the aircraft went down just a few hundred meters ahead of the runway. In the Meghaninagar area of the city, it struck the BJ Medical College undergraduate hostel mess, where trainee doctors were apparently having their meals. And there was a tremendously big fire, thick black smoke that was visible across the city. And there's been a tremendous immediate emergency response from fire, police, disaster relief teams. And the aircraft did issue a mayday call soon after the departure, before losing contact with the air traffic control and descending rapidly. So this is extremely concerning. How can an aircraft just fall out of the sky just like that? And in India, everybody flies now. The past 10 years, the number of airports has increased all over the place. Everybody flies. There was a time when flying was a luxury for people. Today, it's a necessity. People are flying all the time. Day before yesterday, I was in an Air India flight. Yesterday, I was in an Air India flight. So so this is what has happened. This is what we know. Now, what are the casualty reports, etc.? Passenger information. So there were 242 people on board, total passengers plus crew. There were 169 Indian nationals among the passengers. There were 53 British nationals uh, in in the aircraft, and there were 8 people of other nationalities, including Canadian and Portuguese. It's too early to tell how many people sadly would have died, despite the devastating nature of the impact. It was a tremendous crash with a huge fireball, but we know that at least one person has survived the crash, reasonably unhurt. So happy to hear that. The former Gujarat Chief Minister, Mr. Vijay Rupani, was reportedly among the passengers. That's what one hears from the news. And Air India, as well as the Boeing Aircraft Company, have pledged full cooperation with the investigation, which is being led by the DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation of India. Now, it looks like this was a dual engine failure in a twin engine aircraft. So, an aircraft with two engines, and both engines fail. They not only fail, they fail simultaneously at the same time. That is, what causes that? So so twin engine aircraft dual engine failures, simultaneous dual engine failures, represent one of aviation's rarest but most critical, most devastating emergencies, with occurrences that are so infrequent that pilots are statistically more likely to win the lottery than experience such an event. That's how rare it is, and that's how unfortunate it is. Right? And why is it so rare? It's because today's engines are incredibly reliable, remarkably reliable. Modern engines achieve reliability rates of one failure per 375,000 to 1 million flight hours. Okay? And yet incidents still occur, such as these, like dual engine failures, because of very specific environmental and operational factors. So let's do a comprehensive analysis of what these factors could be. What are the primary causal factors? And we'll first look into the primary causal factors, and then we'll look at reasonably recent commercial aviation incidents that have involved simultaneous dual engine failures. What are the primary causes of dual engine failure? So we have causes like bird strikes, large birds. Large birds can't be small birds. It needs to be large birds or flocks of birds that cause simultaneous engine damage. Then fuel system failures. So starvation of the engines or contamination of the fuel, or icing that affects both engines, which is not going to be a cause in the Ahmedabad air crash, but because there was no ice. It wasn't a cold day in Ahmedabad. It never snows there. Then you could have severe weather, like precipitation, which is like very heavy rainfall, or turbulence, or once again icing that could potentially cause flame outs of the engine, simultaneous flame outs. Then one very rare factor is volcanic ash. It's been known to happen. So volcanic ash contains abrasive particles, silica particles, etc., which could damage engine components, engine turbines, etc., and cause simultaneous dual engine failure. And then there's the possibility of human error, procedural failures, incorrect responses to malfunctions, and all. So these are the possible primary factors and these primary factors represent the most common causes of dual engine failures in commercial aviation. So each of these failures is very different from the others, and each presents a unique set of challenges for prevention and mitigation strategies in the aviation industry. Now, let's take the first factor: bird strike incidents. So, bird strikes constitute one of the most documented cases of simultaneous dual engine failure. So, what happens is that the aircraft suddenly runs into a big flock of birds, and these typically are large birds, like a flock of geese. A goose is a pretty big bird. So when this happens, the birds are sucked into the engines, and this ingestion of these large birds or flocks of birds can cause immediate and catastrophic damage to both the engines simultaneously. So that this is one plausible cause of such a situation. It only happens when there's a substantial bird strike incident in both engines. So the most famous and a reasonably recent incident happened in 2009. The miracle on the Hudson, they called it, right? US Airways flight 1549. It was taking off over New York, and it struck a flock of Canada geese, which caused both the engines to fail at the same time, completely. And then the aircraft was reduced to being a glider, and they had no choice but to do an emergency landing in the Hudson River, which was extremely successful. So, what are the challenges in preventing this? So, bird encounters. Generally, which airports have a substantial bird population around them. I think in India there are plenty of airports where you see birds around the runways all the time. I have noticed that while landing in airports, okay, and it's pretty concerning. But apparently, nothing ever happens. You see birds all the time. You see birds when you're landing. You see birds, crows and pigeons and whatnot. Um, so, and yet you never hear of a bird strike problem in India somehow. So these bird encounters are pretty unpredictable. You never know when it's going to happen, and that's why the prevention of bird strike incidents is pretty challenging. So when you're a pilot, you're taking off or landing, and you detect birds. It's generally when the birds are right in front of you, and it may generally makes it too late for the pilot to execute any successful avoidance maneuver. And modern aircraft specific certification requires engines to withstand bird strikes of specific sizes. So that is one mitigatory factor. Often it happens that there's a bird strike and the engine is somewhat damaged. So you can switch off that engine, and use the other engine to do a turn around and come back to the airport. So an aircraft can work perfectly fine. I mean, reasonably fine with one engine out of order. You can at least bring it back to the airport, or have it land at the nearest airport. So this is generally the deal with bird strike incidents. Now, fuel system failures. So what are the different things that could happen? So first of all, what is fuel system failure? That's when you have fuel starvation. The engines are starved of fuel. So this occurs when aircraft exhaust their available fuel supply either through miscalculation or fuel leaks. So one of the things you could have is fuel leaks. So undetected leaks causing gradual fuel loss during the flight. So the fuel is also already being consumed by the engines, but there's also fuel leakage. So the fuel is being lost, and that's why whatever calculations must have occurred before the flight took off, those calculations are no longer valid, because the fuel is being it's decreasing at a very different rate from what you had anticipated. So this could cause a fuel system failure. Then fuel contamination. So if there are foreign substances in the fuel, if it's contaminated, if it's adulterated, or whatever, so that could affect the engine's performance. It could eventually degrade the engine and have the engine fail. Then fuel system icing. So ice crystals can form inside fuel lines during a flight through extremely cold regions. So that generally is not something we encounter in India. In India, aircraft generally fly at 37,000 feet. That's 12, 13 kilometers above sea level. And that's the general cruising altitude. And you don't really encounter any such issues over here in India. Air Transnat flight through 236 experienced dual engine failure approximately 65 miles from the Azores in 2001 due to a fuel leak, requiring the crew to glide the aircraft to a successful landing at an airbase. Similarly, the Gimly glider, which we will discuss, the Gimli glider, Air Canada Flight 143 in 83, ran out of fuel at 35,000 feet due to a calculation error involving the conversion between pounds and kilograms, leading to the famous Gimli glider incident. Then what else do we have? We have severe weather conditions, which can cause engine flameouts. So extreme meteorological conditions can precipitate dual engine failures through multiple mechanisms. Heavy precipitation, either rain or snow or even hail, right? Severe turbulence, icing conditions, etc., can cause engine flameouts when the combustion process within the engine becomes disrupted. So this happens when the ignition of fuel inside the engine stops, typically due because of too much water ingestion or extreme air disturbance that disrupts the air fuel mixture. Recent incidents: an Indigo ATR turboprop aircraft experienced sequential engine flameouts during intense rainfall last month. Last month, it was going to Chandigarh, and this happened just a month ago, approximately, roughly. So what happened was that it had sequential engine flameouts, with each engine automatically restarting after momentary failures. Similarly, a Virgin Australia ATR 72 in December 2018 suffered consecutive engine flameouts while descending through severe weather conditions near Canberra, with both engines recovering through automatic ignition systems. So our aircraft have automatic restart systems, ignition systems, which generally, save the day. Then there's the very rare case of volcanic ash ingestion. So this is a tremendously unique hazard. It only happens in some parts of the world. Indonesia is a good example. So this is a unique hazard capable of simultaneously affecting both engines. The abrasive nature of volcanic ash can damage engine components, and ash particles can disrupt the combustion process in jet engines. It can just smother the combustion process. So in 1982, a Boeing 747 with 4 engines, it lost all 4 engines after ingesting volcanic ash. This happened over Indonesia, but the crew was able to successfully restart the engines after gliding outside of the ash cloud, and they were able to complete a safe landing in Jakarta. Now, modern volcanic ash forecasting and avoidance procedures have significantly reduced this risk. So, the risks that existed in 1982, they're very different from the risks that we have today. Today's risks are significantly diminished because we have volcanic ash forecasting and avoidance procedures, which are way better than what we had in the 1980s. And aviation authorities have established clear protocols for aircraft routing during volcanic eruptions. And in Indonesia, which is part of the Ring of Fire, volcanic eruptions are reasonably frequent. So that's volcanic ash ingestion. Then you have pilot error and procedural failures. So here's one scenario that I've put out over here. So what happens is that, okay, in this completely fictitious scenario, but it's a scenario that has indeed happened in the past. So what you have a dual engine aircraft with two engines. Now one engine malfunctions initially for some reason. Okay, for some reason, one engine malfunctions. So one engine begins to fail, and this requires obviously pilot response. Now, in this scenario, what happens is that the pilots mistakenly identify that the other engine has failed. So they misidentify which engine is functioning. And then they will shut down the functioning engine instead of shutting down the malfunctioning engine. The crew shuts down the operational engine instead of the failing one. So now you have a situation where both engines are shut down. So the aircraft is left with one failed engine and one deliberately shut down engine. So the British Midland Flight 92 at Kegworth exemplifies this kind of pilot error, in which pilots shut down the functioning engine instead of the malfunctioning one, and this incident resulted in 47 fatalities. Modern airline procedures now incorporate enhanced monitoring protocols requiring both pilots to verify engine shutdown procedures, and this has significantly reduced the likelihood of such errors. Now, what else do we have? Engine separation and mechanical failures. So, engine separation is the engine being separated from the wing of the aircraft or the housing in which it is attached to the aircraft. Super rare, extremely rare. So, while extremely rare, complete engine separation from an aircraft can occur during a flight. Commercial aircraft carry specific checklists for engine separation scenarios, with engines designed to separate via shear pins to protect the aircraft structure during significant impacts. Now, independent operation. The probability of simultaneous mechanical failures affecting both engines independently remains extraordinarily low because of the independent operation of each power plant. And modern engines are designed with redundant systems to prevent catastrophic failures. And what are the design safeguards that we have? So, aircraft engines incorporate numerous design features to contain failures and prevent cascading damage. So one thing leads to another, and it snowballs into a much bigger kind of damage. That's what we mean by cascading damage. So these design features include containment rings for blade failures and strategic placement of critical components to minimize the risk of simultaneous damage. So we are pretty much taken care of when it comes to engine separation and mechanical failures within the moving components of an engine. Now let's take a look at recent commercial dual engine failure incidents. So I spoke about the 2025 May incident, last month's incident, an Indigo ATR turboprop flight. So what happened is that you had sequential engine flameouts during intense rainfall. First one engine dies, then the other one dies. But the outcome was that both engines automatically restarted, and there was a safe landing, I think, in Chandigarh, and there were no casualties, no injuries either. December 13, 2018, a Virgin Australia flight 660, which was an ATR 72-600. Once again, there were sequential engine flameouts and heavy rain and severe weather. And the same thing happened. Both engines automatically restarted within seconds. And there was a safe landing. There were no casualties. So these two incidents, which are reasonably recent, they highlight the effectiveness of modern automatic engine restart systems in turboprop aircraft. And so these prove particularly valuable in mitigating weather-related flameout events. So in both the cases over here, the aircraft safety systems functioned as designed, and they prevented what could have been a catastrophic incidents. Now, let's see more recent dual engine failure incidents. Aeroflot Flight 7841 in July 2013, a twin engine aircraft. What happened was that there was ice ingestion, which caused dual engine failure, and there was a forced landing in a forest with 58 fatalities, and there were 22 survivors. Then there's the very famous incident about which a movie has been made. Captain Schellenberger was the guy who saved the day. So this was an Airbus A320-214 aircraft. There was a bird strike. Canadian geese, a flock of Canadian geese, was ingested in both the engines. Both the engines died, flamed out at the same time, destroyed by the huge birds. And then the aircraft had to be landed in the Hudson River in the middle of New York. And all 155 people survived, 100 people were injured, 5 were seriously injured, but no fatalities. So these incidents represent contrasting outcomes in dual engine failure scenarios. The Aeroflot incident resulted in significant casualties despite crew efforts because it had to land in a forest. While the miracle in the Hudson, it demonstrated how skilled piloting, Captain Schellenberger, um, and favorable conditions, the presence of a river in the middle of a city, yeah. So how all of this can lead to successful emergency landings with no loss of life. Some more details. Let's see. Additional dual engine failure case studies. British Airways Flight 38 in the year 2008. It experienced fuel system icing, restricting fuel flow during approach to London Heathrow. The aircraft landed short of the runway but cleared the perimeter fence, and that's why there were no fatalities. In 2008, there was an incident in Rome Ciampino. A Boeing 737 on final approach suffered approximately 90 bird strikes from a flock of starlings, which are reasonably small birds. So the crew were able to achieve a safe landing on the runway, even though the aircraft was written off. But there were no casualties, so that's a good thing. The aircraft was destroyed; it could not be, salvaged and brought back to operating, standards. But it doesn't matter; nobody died. That's the best possible outcome in this sort of a situation. Let's take a look at a couple more, 3 more, and we will then look at the third one. So Garuda Indonesia flight 421, January 16, 2002. Dual engine flame out in severe cumulonimbus clouds with heavy rain and ice. So this aircraft had to be ditched in the Bengawan Solo River. There was one fatality on the ground, but nobody inside the aircraft, and the aircraft was substantially damaged. This was a Boeing 737. Then we discussed the Air Transnat flight in 2001, Airbus A330, fuel leak leading to fuel exhaustion. And the pilots were able to do a successful glide landing at the Azores Airbase, and there were no casualties. And then there's the Gimli glider, the Air Canada Flight 143 in 1983. This was from one part of Canada to another, I think from Montreal to Winnipeg or somewhere else. And there was a fuel miscalculation, and the outcome was a successful glide landing at the abandoned Gimli runway with no casualties. Let's discuss this one in more detail. The Gimli glider incident. So what are the causes? About 40% of the cause was metric conversion error, conversion from pounds to kilograms. Then fuel quantity indicator malfunction. So that also happened, which had a 25% impact on the overall incident. Then there was procedural failures with a 20% impact percentage, maintenance oversight with 10%, and other factors. So what happened is that this aircraft, the Gimli, which was then later called the Gimli glider, it ran out of fuel at 35,000 feet because of a calculation error involving the conversion between pounds and kilograms. So in North America, they use pounds. They use the British metric system, this outdated system, but they still use it. They don't, the imperial system, not the metric system. They use the outdated British imperial system, while the rest of the world uses the more modern metric system. So even today, if you go to the US, etc., they will talk about miles instead of kilometers and so on, pounds instead of kilograms. So around this time, there had been this new transition in aviation from pounds to kilograms. And one of the maintenance people or whoever it was did a calculation error while converting between pounds and kilograms. And this aircraft was one of the first aircraft in Air Canada's fleet to use metric measurements. So the pilots then they discovered that their aircraft has run out of fuel mid-air, substantially far from the destination, and then they had to turn the aircraft into a glider. And the main pilot, he had glider experience, so they had to do like pretty unusual maneuvers, including a side slip maneuver in which you have the rudder of the horizontal stabilizer. You have to use it at cross purposes with the ailerons and the aircraft wings and so on. So they had to do a side slip and extremely drastic maneuvers, but they were able to successfully glide the aircraft at and have it land at an abandoned Royal Canadian Air Force airbase in Gimli. And there were people on the runway. They were doing cycling and whatnot, including kids, but thankfully nobody was injured. um, so this incident led to significant changes in Air Canada's fueling procedures, and this demonstrated the importance of proper unit conversion in aviation operations. And there was a complete loss of engine power, but the crew was able to land the aircraft without any serious injuries to passengers or crew. So these are the different incidents that have happened in reasonably recent history, going back 30, 40 plus years. And we also discussed the causes of a simultaneous dual engine failure. So, dual engine failures in modern aviation, extremely, exceptionally rare events. Dual engine failures in twin engine aircraft remain exceptionally rare events, typically resulting from common cause failures affecting both power plants, both engines simultaneously. Environmental factors, particularly severe weather conditions and bird strikes, considered the primary causal mechanisms for such incidents. Modern aviation safety improvements, including enhanced weather radar, bird strike mitigation programs, and improved fuel system redesigns, continue to reduce the frequency of these occurrences, which makes the Ahmedabad air crash extremely perplexing. And whenever dual engine failures do occur, pilot training and aircraft design features generally enable successful emergency responses, as demonstrated by the reasonably high survival rate in recent incidents. And yet, we now have an incident which is super perplexing. We don't know what happened, why it happened. The reason that this aircraft has crashed with apparently lots of casualties is because the crew had absolutely no time to react. See, if an aircraft is flying high, if you have an aircraft that's flying at 35, 36,000 feet, then what you can do is, if something like this happens, then the crew can take some precautions, they can take some measures, and they can perhaps glide the aircraft to safety. So if you are flying high above ground level and the engines fail, then you can turn the jet into a glider, and just by gliding you can hopefully find a nearby airfield where you can land. And that's what has historically happened. But in Ahmedabad, the aircraft was just taking off. It was just taking off, and just about 10 seconds or 15 seconds into the flight, the engine seemed to have failed. And that's why it looks like the pilots had absolutely no time to do a thing. There was no way to make the aircraft glide. An aircraft gliding is generally, what does it mean? It means you're falling, but you're falling aerodynamically, and you can use the control surfaces on your aircraft in the horizontal and vertical stabilizers and so on, the ailerons, the flaps, the spoilers and so on, using that you can control the aircraft and you can guide it where you want it to land. But that can only happen if you're flying several kilometers above the surface. In the case of the Ahmedabad crash, there was no time to do that. But the real key question is, how can two engines die at the same time? The aircraft was taking off, which means all the checks had been done, all the maintenance had been done, all the checklists had been cleared. The pilots were convinced that the aircraft is airworthy, otherwise they would never take off. And it just failed within seconds. So what could have happened is the question. As of now, it's too early to say. Maybe there could have been a bird strike. Maybe a large flock of birds may have been ingested by both engines, in which it's nobody's fault at all. Maybe then it's in that case, maybe you could the aircraft authorities need to, the airport authorities need to look into the question of birds. So I think it's too early to tell what really happened. It's tragic that this has happened. Um, you know, aviation is super safe in India, incredibly safe. India has one of the lowest rates of aircraft accidents. I remember there was an air crash in Ahmedabad, I think in 1988, and then in 1992 or 1990 or thereabouts. After that, there was nothing. And overall in India, you hardly have any incidents, serious incidents. There was a few years ago a plane crash in Kerala under extremely bad weather conditions, and even then, I mean, there were some casualties, but many people were saved. So this is extremely concerning. It's terrible. Looks like a lot of people looks like have lost their lives, including people on the ground, young trainee doctors. Very tragic. And I hope that the investigation will be done as soon as possible. Finding the air the so-called black box, the data recorder, will be pretty easy because we know it's in a localized place. We know where it will be, so they'll be able to find it. And once they find it, they'll know quickly what the issue really was. I don't think the pilots even had time to inform air traffic control what happened. That's how rapidly this went down. So, so terrible. So I thought that today, instead of discussing other things today, I'll start with discussing this matter because, yeah, it's on everyone's minds right now, and it's absolutely terrible. So I hope that the cause is identified as soon as possible, and I hope that we have a few more survivors, as many as possible. Anyhow, so that's about this matter. Now let us talk about the Trump empire. And we're not talking about the Trump presidential empire, we're talking about the Trump family business empire. So Mr. Donald Trump, is a businessman, first and foremost. He became a politician much later. He became a politician in the 2010s. I think he took politics seriously after he was mocked mercilessly by a politician while attending the annual reporters event during the Obama administration, and Obama was sitting and chuckling and laughing at Trump. So I think that's when Trump decided to take politics seriously. He became president in 2016, lost apparently 2020, and now he's back as president, right? But Trump is first and foremost a businessman. He has a big business empire, right? He started off as a real estate developer in New York, and that's what he has been primarily throughout his life. But today his family, his children, etc., they have multiple business interests, all tied together to the founding father, so to say. So that's the Trump business empire. So let's take a look at the Trump business empire during the second presidency of Donald J. Trump, the Trump business empire during the second presidency. So let's do this. So okay, let it give it a second. Here we have it. Okay, there we have it. So understanding the intersection of presidential power and private business interests requires examining how these relationships develop over time and what patterns emerge. So this comprehensive analysis that I'm going to give you, it combines multiple investigations to present a complete picture of how the Trump business empire has evolved and expanded during Trump's second presidency. What investigations, what multiple investigative reports? One was the trajectory of the Trump business empire on its own. The second was the Trump business empire and its Pakistani connection. And the third investigation was about the potential conflicts of interest between serving the nation and serving your business empire. So these three separate investigations I then combined into this one comprehensive report. So that's what we will explore in this: the unprecedented integration of public office with private financial gain. And we're going to examine financial benefits, conflicts of interests, and international expansion. And we're going to limit ourselves to what has happened in this year, 2025. Otherwise, it'll take too much time. So we're going to focus on what has happened since the day Donald Trump became president of the US. Okay. So overview. The family net worth is in excess of $5 billion. today. So this has more than doubled from 2.3 billion, which was their total net worth since the presidential campaign began for the 2025 presidency. Right. Um, so the family net worth is 5 billion plus. The civil debt, that is the amount that was owed to others at the start of the presidency, was 502 million. And Trump is, well, technically the first convicted felon to serve as presidential. So that's the first ever uh, instance of that happening, right? So ever since Trump was inaugurated for his second presidential term on January 20, his business empire has experienced explosive growth and expansion. And this unique circumstance has created a situation where personal financial pressures intersected directly with presidential decision making power, which has established conditions ripe for conflicts of interest on a scale never before seen in the history of the United States. Right? So, what are the key areas of business expansion of the Trump family empire? First of all, cryptocurrency ventures. So this area added approximately $2.9 billion to the family wealth through various digital asset initiatives. Then there's international real estate. There's development. See, Trump has always been a developer, a real estate developer. So now he's into international real estate. So there's development that spans multiple continents with strategic partnerships in key markets. A lot of it is in the Middle East, by the way. Okay. Then there are foreign government partnerships. These are strategic relationships that blur the traditional boundaries between diplomacy and commerce. Now, most notably, the Trump family's engagement with Pakistan. Pakistan, my friends, here, listen, Pakistan. This represents a sophisticated network of business relationships that directly involve the military dictatorship of Pakistan, government agencies of Pakistan, and the Trump business empire, and the United States government, all of this coming together, which raises profound questions about the integrity of US foreign policy decision making. Let's go further into this. So we'll begin from the beginning. Okay, chronological development. What was the foundational phase? So the foundational phase, January 2025, what happened was that this established the framework for business expansion before and immediately after Trump's inauguration as the president of the US. In February 2025, you had the beginning of regulatory capture to benefit family business interests. In March and June 2025, you had international expansion and integration of family business ventures with government activities. So, the first 6 months of Trump's second presidency established the foundation for unprecedented business growth with strategic moves in cryptocurrency, international real estate, and foreign partnerships. And the foundation phase was January to March, approximately January something, 2025. So, January 2025, establishing the framework. Um, on the 10th of January, so he was inaugurated on the 20th of January, 2025. On the 10th of January, Trump received an unconditional discharge in his Manhattan criminal case while still carrying over $500 million in civil debt. This legal resolution removed immediate constraints on his political activities while leaving substantial financial pressures intact. Now there's a new business structure. The business structure established for his second presidency represented a significant departure from his first term. The Trump organization, its assets remained in a trust managed by Trump's children. At the same time, William A. Burke was appointed as an outside ethics advisor, and this new arrangement included substantially weaker restrictions on foreign business activities. And unlike his previous ethics arrangement that prohibited both foreign government and private foreign deals, the current agreement only restricts direct deals with foreign governments while permitting arrangements with private foreign companies. So that kind of gives you a workaround, doesn't it? Now, the cryptocurrency ventures begin. So, World Liberty Financial was restructured. This is Trump's family entity, DT Marks DeFi LLC, and that took 60% control. Then there was the launch of two meme coins, Trump and Melania. These two meme coins, they generated $100 million in fees, and this temporarily boosted Trump's net worth to 58 billion. There was a spike in Trump's net worth, which was a cryptocurrency kind of spike, so it comes down, but it temporarily boosted Trump's net worth to $58 billion. So these cryptocurrency ventures began immediately with the restructuring of World Liberty Financial, where the Trump family became entitled to 75% of net revenues from token sales. And this marked a strategic pivot into the largely unregulated world, this digital asset sector, where presidential influence over US policy could directly benefit family financial interests. Now, February 25 is where regulatory capture begins. So, February, the developments that happened in February revealed how presidential power could be systematically deployed to benefit family business interests. I'm sure much of it is pretty legal, or maybe it is in some kind of gray area. We'll look into this. So, in February, this marked the beginning of significant changes in regulatory oversight that directly benefited Trump family ventures. SEC investigations were paused. Approximately 12 cryptocurrency companies received relief. The Department of Justice suspended probes on overseas corruption and crypto fraud cases. These were halted. Trademark applications were filed for NFTs, metaverse ventures, and virtual goods. Regulatory capture. These regulatory changes benefited Trump's ventures. So SEC Securities and Exchange Commission enforcement was paused. They paused investigations into approximately 12 cryptocurrency companies, including halting a fraud case against Justin Sun, who had just become a Trump crypto business partner. This regulatory intervention directly benefited the Trump family's cryptocurrency ventures by reducing legal risks for key business associates. Then the Justice Department shifts. So simultaneously, the Justice Department suspended investigations of US companies for overseas corruption and directed prosecutors to step back from cryptocurrency fraud litigation. These pauses in enforcement priorities created a more favorable regulatory environment for the Trump family's expanding international business operations. So I had said before Trump became president that if he becomes president, it will only be if he kisses the ring. So if you kiss the ring, you get benefits, don't you? Don't you get benefits, right? Continuing, Trump media performance. Trump Media and Technology Group reported a $400.9 million net loss for 2024, but maintained cash reserves of $776.8 million. And this demonstrates how market confidence in Trump's political position sustained business valuations despite poor operational performance. Now, March to June 2025, you have international expansion. So the spring months of 2025 witnessed an unprecedented integration of presidential diplomatic activities with family business expansion. Interesting, no? So this period marked a significant acceleration in international business development of the Trump empire across multiple regions. First of all, you had the launch of a stable coin, World Liberty Financial, launched USD1 stablecoin backed by US treasuries. Then there were Middle East projects, Trump-branded projects announced in Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, which kind of coincided with his visit there. Then diplomatic activities, the presidential meetings coincided with business expansion. And then financial control. The Trump family grabbed the lion's share of World Liberty Financial funds. So diplomatic activities and business expansion. Date, March 2025. What activity? Middle East diplomatic meetings by President Trump. What business development happened simultaneously? Trump-branded projects in Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Then 31st of March 2025, what diplomatic activity? International trade discussions. And what business development happened simultaneously? Reuters reported that Trump family took majority of World Liberty financial funds. April 2025. Global tariff imposition. The 2nd of April, I believe, was the date where Trump unleashed tariffs on the world, right? So April 2025, you have global tariff implementation. What business development? 29% reciprocal tariffs on Pakistan, affecting $5.3 billion in trade. So the pattern that emerged was striking. Presidential diplomatic activities consistently coincided with Trump organization business expansion, which suggests, excuse me, systematic use of public office for private gain. The integration of official duties with business development represented an unprecedented approach to leveraging a presidential power. Never happened before, right? April 2025, accelerated business activities. Trump announced a Trump-branded golf resort in Qatar's 5.5 billion Simaisma development with Qatar's sovereign wealth fund, demonstrating how presidential connections facilitated access to sovereign capital. Trump just has to say the word, and the Qatari or whoever leadership will do what's required, right? Then UAE investment. DWF Labs, a UAE-backed firm, purchased $25 million in World Liberty Financial tokens, showing how foreign government entities were directly funding Trump family ventures. I mean, if you get something in return, why not do it, right? That's how the world works. So, and as a consequence, the Trump family ventures benefit. Then in April, you have the Georgetown Club being established. So Donald Trump Jr. established an exclusive $500 million membership Georgetown Club, which is aimed at the elites of the region, political and business elites of the region, which explicitly provides business leaders with access to administration officials. Okay, benefits. You get benefits. The Pakistan connection. We have to discuss the Pakistan connection, don't we? So there's a strategic partnership that the Trump business empire has with the Pakistan government. Comprehensive business partnerships agreements with government backing. The Pakistan government we're referring to. First of all, there's a cryptocurrency framework, digital finance initiatives with official support. There's resource extraction, access to $50 trillion in rare earth minerals. Much of it could potentially be in Balochistan, occupied Balochistan, right? Military integration, direct involvement of the top Pakistani military leadership, right? So the Trump family's engagement with Pakistan represents perhaps the most sophisticated example of how presidential power can be leveraged for business advantage. And this has created an unprecedented integration of commercial interests with diplomatic and security relationships. So let's look at the breakdown. So corporate structure and strategic positioning. What is this big chunk over here? Ownership structure, Trump Family Trust, 60%. And what is this chunk over here? Other investors. So we're talking about World Liberty Financial. The corporate structure underlying these operations centers on World Liberty Financial, where the Trump family maintains 60% ownership through the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, with Donald Trump Jr. serving as trustee and maintaining sole voting and investing power over all securities owned by the trust. This ownership arrangement established in December 2024 allows the Trump family to maintain operational control while creating legal distance from direct ownership during Trump's presidential term. So what's Trump's Pakistan business strategy? So the Pakistan operations represent a significant departure from traditional Trump organization real estate ventures. It's positioning the family as major stakeholders in Pakistan's emerging digital finance sector and resource extraction industries. Two very different sectors. One is digital finance, which is a very speculative and newfangled sector, and Pakistan is a newcomer at this. And Pakistan doesn't have much of an industry that can really, create very large assets. But Pakistan's resources could be worth maybe $50 trillion. So that's much more significant. That's much more tangible and solid and robust. Resource extraction, rare earth minerals and whatnot. So, this strategic positioning allows the Trump family to leverage presidential influence in a region of significant geopolitical importance while simultaneously pursuing substantial financial opportunities. Right? Now, operational control. The ownership structure, like we saw, it ensures that the Trump family maintains decisive control over all business operations while creating at the same time sufficient legal separation to claim compliance with ethics requirements. So, this arrangement exemplifies how the Trump business model has evolved to maintain effective control of international ventures while technically adhering to the letter of ethics agreements that prohibit direct deals with foreign governments. So, the cryptocurrency partnership framework. In March 2025, the Pakistan Crypto Council was established with the goal of transforming Pakistan into South Asia, like they say, South Asia's leading cryptocurrency hub. That's their grandiose objective and goal. So this was established in the month of March this year. On April 26, World Liberty Financial signed a comprehensive letter of intent with the Pakistani Crypto Council days after the Pahalgam terror attack on Indian civilians and a Nepalese civilian in Kashmir. So, days after Pakistan unleashes a terror attack on India, Trump's company, organization, whatever you want to call it, World Liberty Financial, signed a comprehensive letter of intent with Pakistan Crypto Council. And the founder of Binance, Changpeng Zhao, was appointed as advisor to to enhance the initiative's credibility. So there's a Pakistani angle, there's a American angle, and now there's a Chinese angle in this matter. So the strategic timing of this partnership, the Pakistan Crypto Council was established just weeks before the agreement. It suggests advanced coordination between Pakistani officials and Trump family representatives. It does suggest advanced coordination, doesn't it? So, what's this comprehensive cryptocurrency agreement? First of all, blockchain expansion. The agreement encompasses comprehensive blockchain technology expansion across Pakistan's economic infrastructure. It positions the Trump family at the center of the country's digital transformation. The Trump family is now being positioned at the center of Pakistan's digital transformation. That's how deeply invested Trump is in Pakistan. Stablecoin adoption, implementation of stablecoin technology throughout Pakistan's financial system. This creates significant revenue opportunities through transaction fees and currency control mechanisms. Then there's decentralized finance. Integration of decentralized finance platforms provides the Trump family with unprecedented access to Pakistan's emerging financial markets while operating in a regulatory environment directly influenced by presidential policy. Now, do you understand why Trump is so bullish on Pakistan and why he is so attached to Pakistan? So the comprehensive nature of this cryptocurrency agreement positions the Trump family to benefit from virtually every aspect of Pakistan's digital financial transformation, and this creates multiple revenue streams while leveraging presidential influence. What next? High profile delegation and reception. So the World Liberty Financial delegation to Pakistan involved high profile representatives Zachary Folkman, Chase Herro, and notably Zachary Witkoff, son of Steve Witkoff, Trump's longtime associate and excuse me, and special envoy. The delegation's reception demonstrated Pakistan's deep commitment to the partnership. And meetings including Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Army Chief General Asim Munir, Finance Minister Mohammed Aurangzeb, and various other senior government officials, all the way at the top. The puppet Prime Minister and the dictator, both, and their minions. So, resource extraction and strategic assets. So, what are the resources that will be extracted by the Trump family? First of all, rare earth minerals. Pakistan's reserves are valued at around $50 trillion, and this is identified as the primary investment target. Then there's oil and gas exploration opportunities in Pakistan's untapped energy reserves. And then there's real estate development, potential for billion-dollar development projects across Pakistan. So Pakistan is offering its resources to the Trump family. Please come and plunder. Please come and take it. Okay, we are at your disposal. As long as you take care of us. Us means the generals and the high-ranking army officials and so on. Standard vassal practice, right? So beyond cryptocurrency, the Trump network actively pursues resource extraction opportunities through informal diplomatic channels. Gentry Beach, described as a hunting buddy and college friend of Donald Trump Jr., conducted exploratory missions to Pakistan in January 2025, followed by similar visits to Bangladesh and Turkey. Let's not forget Bangladesh, but we are primarily discussing Pakistan here. And there's also Turkey, right? High level access and meetings. So, Beach's first meeting with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif included, imagine, some guy who is a friend of the son of the president. He's just a guy, right? He's just a guy who Trump's son met in college and they became friends. Now, this guy has access suddenly to the Pakistani prime minister. So this guy's first meeting with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif included senior cabinet ministers, including finance and foreign affairs ministers, demonstrating official government support, Pakistani government support for Trump business interests. Then there was a subsequent meeting during the World Government Summit in Dubai, which provided additional opportunities to advance business discussions in an international setting with multiple government representatives present. So this was a follow-up in Dubai. Then there were meetings in Mar-a-Lago. So Beach provided detailed briefings to Trump Sr. and close aides at Mar-a-Lago, emphasizing Pakistan as an amazing place, with the potential for billion-dollar exploration deals. So, resource assessment and investment targets. So, Beach identified Pakistan's rare earth mineral reserves as a primary investment target. His briefings emphasized the extraordinary scale of potential deals spanning rare earth minerals, oil and gas, and real estate development. The systematic resource assessment aligns with broader Trump family strategies to diversify beyond traditional real estate holdings into resource extraction and energy sectors where presidential influence could provide competitive advantages. So rare earth minerals, the estimated value in is about 50 trillion US dollars. Oil and gas estimate $10 trillion. And then you have real estate, which Trump is very at home with, which has an estimated value of $5 trillion. So total about $65 trillion. That's a lot of money. So Pakistan is a great place for Donald Trump. Military integration and security implications. So the Pakistani military dictatorship is deeply and fully committed and involved in these matters. So the Pakistani military leadership's direct involvement in facilitating Trump family business interests represents an unusual convergence of commercial and security relationships. The Army Chief, General Asim Munir's participation in meetings with World Liberty financial representatives demonstrates institutional military support for cryptocurrency initiatives. And the military is all that matters in Pakistan. The civilian government is merely there for show. It's a puppet government. The military is who rules the country. The military is the dictatorship that has been ruling Pakistan essentially ever since partition, right? So there is a security business nexus. The integration of military leadership with business negotiations has created an unprecedented situation where Pakistan's security establishment has become directly invested in the success of Trump family commercial ventures. And this potentially will influence security decisions and priorities, like Trump interfering in India's bombardment of Pakistan and Trump essentially arm twisting India into stopping that, right? So just one phone call is all it takes. Asim Munir calling Donald Trump. There you have it. So the military endorsement for the Pakistani military's endorsement for Trump's business activities provides both legitimacy and security guarantees for Trump business operations in Pakistan, representing a level of institutional support rarely seen in international business ventures. Let's say you have a lot of money and you want to open a new mine of something, uranium mine or something. Let's say in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where there's no law. So what do? You have the money, you have the means to set up a big mining operation, but who's going to safeguard it? So you either go to the local warlords or you go to the Russians, maybe Wagner, maybe the Africa Corps. So you need a security guarantor. You have to pay them for it, and you don't have to pay them directly. You can just take care of other interests of theirs and so on. So that's the relationship the Trump business empire has with the Pakistani dictatorship. Very win-win kind of situation they have created for themselves. So let's take a look at the chronology, regional events in the subcontinent, in essentially Pakistan, and Trump's intervention. So April 2022, there's a terrorist attack in Pahalgam. On April 26th, there's a crypto deal signing in Pakistan. In May, on the 7th of May 2025, India launches Operation Sindoor in response to the Pakistani terrorism. And on the 10th of May night, or maybe 11th of May, wherever it is, Trump says that, I take credit for mediating cessation of hostilities between India and Pakistan. So this military endorsement, the Pakistani military's endorsement of the Trump business empire's expansion into Pakistan, it becomes particularly significant when viewed in the context of what happened. So following India's military response to the Pahalgam attack, President Trump then intervened, he interfered, and then he publicly claimed credit for mediating a cessation of hostilities. And he said that he used economic sanctions as a threat to compel India to halt its military operation after just 3 days. So Trump essentially intervened in favor of Pakistan. He did not intervene as a neutral mediator who is interested in world peace. He intervened in favor of Pakistan against India. Understand what happened. Now I hope things are clear as to what happened that day. He was acting as an agent of Pakistan. Okay. So security assistance and policy decisions. $396 million is the security assistance, the amount exempted for Pakistan from broader foreign aid freezes. The Operation Sindoor lasted 3 days. That's how long the Indian military operation was before Trump's interference. $5.3 billion was the trade impact, the value of Pakistani trade affected by US tariffs. Trump's interference coincided with Trump's decision to exempt this $396 million in security assistance to Pakistan from broader foreign aid freezes, which suggests that maybe business considerations may have influenced subsequent US foreign policy decisions regarding Pakistan. And the timing of these events, the business deal completion, the terrorist attack, the military response, and Trump's interference, it raises questions about whether commercial interests are affecting diplomatic decision making on, Trump's diplomatic decision making. Now, Trump's Pakistani advisor, his name is Bilal bin Saqib. He is the special assistant to Pakistan's prime minister on blockchain. He is the CEO of Pakistan Crypto Council. He is also an advisor to the World Liberty Financial. Dual loyalty. He's an example of an official who serves his government. He also serves Trump's business interests. So this is blurring the lines between public duty and private profit. And you can see there's an unprecedented conflict of interest over here. There is a potentially compromised decision-making process or processes, the integration of Pakistani government officials into Trump business operations. This has created unprecedented dual loyalty situations. This arrangement that you see on your screens right now, my friends, it exemplifies how the Trump business model creates institutional conflicts where foreign officials, Pakistani officials, serve not only the Pakistani government, but they also serve Trump family commercial business interests. So let's take a look at the Trump empire's financial performance and wealth accumulation. We are done with the Pakistan section of this presentation. So the financial transformation of the Trump family's wealth during the early months of the second presidency. It represents an unprecedented accumulation of assets by a sitting president. Never happened before to this extent. And this business empire has multiple revenue streams that are contributing to significant, substantial growth. So, first of all, there is the net worth transformation, unprecedented wealth accumulation in just a few months after the presidency began. There's the media valuation, sustained market value despite the operational losses that we saw earlier. Cryptocurrency, that the cryptocurrency portfolio is a major contributor to wealth increase of the empire, of the business empire. And then there's international business, real estate, the global expansion of Trump branded properties to a large extent in the Middle East and elsewhere as well. Then there is here is the visual indicator of the net worth transformation, the financial transformation of the Trump family's wealth during the early months of the second presidency. You can see a huge spike on your screen. That huge spike is the effect of the meme coins, Trump and Melania. Okay, that's a fleeting thing, but it did boost the net worth of the Trump empire to roughly 58 or so billion dollars for a while. So this is an unprecedented accumulation of assets by a sitting president. Forbes has estimated that Trump's personal net worth was around $5.1 billion as of March 2025, and Bloomberg's assessment reached $7.16 billion during peak periods. This represents more than a doubling from pre-presidential levels, and this demonstrates how public possession has translated directly into financial gain. No question about it, right? Then let's take a look at the Trump Media and Technology Group performance. So 820 odd million, that's the Q1 2025 revenue. That's the actual operational revenue that was generated. $401 million US dollars in 2024 was the net loss, the reported financial loss for the previous year. And the cash reserves were 777 roughly million US dollars available capital despite operational losses. The primary driver of this wealth increase has been Trump Media and Technology Group, the overall increase in wealth of the Trump empire. And this group maintained significant market valuation despite reporting minimal revenue and substantial losses. The company's market performance suggests that investor confidence is tied to Trump's position as the president of the US rather than business fundamentals. The valuation is tied to the fact that he's president, it's not tied to business fundamentals. So this demonstrates how presidential status can sustain asset valuations independent of operational performance. And this can create wealth through market perception rather than business results. The cryptocurrency portfolio development. So there's plans to purchase $2.5 billion of assets in Bitcoin, in terms of Bitcoin. There's the meme coins, Trump and Melania tokens. They generate substantial fees. World Liberty Financial has secured over $550 million in funding. And the wealth impact of the cryptocurrency portfolio is that it's added about $2.9 billion to the net worth of the Trump business empire. So the Trump family's cryptocurrency investments have added about $2.9 billion to their net worth, represents about 40% of Trump's total wealth. The cryptocurrency strategy represents a calculated shift into a lightly regulated sector where presidential influence over US digital asset policy could directly benefit family financial interests. So let's take a look at cryptocurrency policy and profit alignment. The January 23, 2025 executive order supporting responsible growth of digital assets was issued while the Trump family simultaneously operated major cryptocurrency businesses, creating direct policy profit alignment. Your policy it aligns with your profits. Well, that's great, isn't it? So, this executive action established a regulatory framework favorable to the family's cryptocurrency ventures, while signaling to markets that digital assets would receive favorable treatment under the Trump administration. The second Trump administration. Strategic positioning. The company's May 2025 announcement of plans to sell stock and bonds to buy $2.5 billion in Bitcoin positioned Trump Media as one of the largest Bitcoin holders among publicly traded US firms. This strategic positioning allows the Trump family to benefit from both cryptocurrency size appreciation, and the ability to increase regulatory policy affecting digital assets. This has created an unprecedented alignment between presidential authority and his family's private financial interests. International real estate expansion. The Trump organization's international expansion during the presidency has been aggressive and global in scope. The organization registered new entities across multiple states and indicated plans to create 25 additional entities for future licensing deals. Notable developments include the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, with units priced up to $20 million each, right? And the Trump Residences Gurgaon, which sold out on launch day with about $390 million in allotments. That's 3,250 crore rupees. Then there's sovereign partnerships and diplomatic integration. Qatar, Air Force One, Vietnam. Okay, let's discuss. So the Qatar development, the Qatar golf course and villa complex, which is valued at $5.5 billion, and it's developed in partnership with Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund. This exemplifies how presidential connections enable access to sovereign capital for major development projects. I mean, you have this idea for a huge development project, but you need access to capital. So here we have it. It's so easy to get capital if you're Mr. Trump. Then there's this gift of Air Force One. The May 2025 acceptance by the Department of Defense of a $400 million Boeing 747-8 from Qatar's royal family for the new Air Force One occurred simultaneously with these business negotiations. Well, what a coincidence, isn't it? Coincidence. Then there's Vietnam. The Vietnam groundbreaking ceremony for the $1.5 billion Trump International Hong Yen project in May 25 was conducted with official ceremony protocols typically reserved for state-sponsored developments. Right? So all of these developments demonstrate the integration of official diplomatic activities with private commercial interests, with Trump's presidential status enhancing the Trump brand's international prestige and market access in unprecedented ways that have never occurred, we've never seen before. Let's take a look at revenue stream diversification of the Trump business empire. First of all, we have financial services, Truth.fi platform with $250 million investment capacity. Cryptocurrency operations, trading fees, management fees, token appreciation. That's how there's a revenue stream over there. Then there's traditional real estate, licensing fees from global properties. Then there's total annual revenue, putting all of these things together, which exceeds $600 million across these different entities. So beyond traditional real estate licensing, the Trump has developed these multiple new revenue streams during the presidency. Truth.fi offers America First investment products, allowing the Trump family to monetize political ideology through financial product sales. Okay? Now let's look at conflicts of interest and constitutional implications. The expansion of Trump business operations during his presidency, this raises profound constitutional concerns regarding the emoluments clause. The emoluments clause prohibits presidents from receiving payments from foreign governments. But sophisticated structures are facilitating payments from foreign governments, which seems like a clear violation of the emoluments clause in the US Constitution. Then there is ethics agreement inadequacies, significant weakening from first term commitments. The second term doesn't have those robust commitments. There's regulatory capture, the systematic weakening of oversight mechanisms. There's judicial system integration. The justice system is incorporated into interest protection, right? The emoluments clause, which essentially says that the US president may not receive bribes. Essentially, that's what it means from foreign entities. Uh, so the first term payments, documented payments to Trump interests from at least 20 foreign governments, this was about $7.8 million. So during Trump's first term, Democrats documented about $7.8 million in payments from at least 20 foreign governments to various Trump businesses. The second presidency has witnessed an acceleration of these agreements through more sophisticated structures. So there's 5.5 million, more than $5.5 million from China alone, which is the largest source of foreign government payments. There's a $2 billion UAE investment, MGX investing using World Liberty Financial's stablecoin, and so on. So these arrangements technically involve private companies, but they are ultimately controlled by foreign government entities, which creates constitutional violations through indirect mechanisms. So technically, it's a foreign, it's a private company, but that private company at the end of the day is controlled by a foreign government entity. So whether it's technically this or technically that, there is a violation of the Constitution right here. Then there's ethics agreement inadequacies, weakened restrictions. The 2025 ethics agreement represents a significant weakening from first term commitments, and it fails to address the scale and complexity of the current business operations, which have significantly expanded as compared to the first term. The agreement's limitation to direct foreign government deals while permitting private foreign company arrangements, this has enabled partnerships that effectively involve foreign government entities through corporate proxies and intermediaries. Practical examples: the agreement's inadequacy becomes apparent when examining arrangements like the Pakistani cryptocurrency partnership, where government officials serve simultaneously as Trump business advisors, or the Qatar golf course development, where Eric Trump appeared alongside Qatari government officials despite claiming zero relationship with government entities. So these examples demonstrate how the current ethics framework fails to address the sophisticated integration of government and business interests that characterizes the Trump business model. Regulatory capture and oversight erosion. So Justice Department decimation, public integrity section responsible for political corruption cases has lost 28 staff members. Those have been removed. There's investigation suspensions. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the DOJ. So these investigations benefiting Trump business partners were systematically paused. The ethics requirements, which we just discussed, those have been abandoned. Traditional executive branch ethics requirements for political appointees are not implemented. Okay, there's oversight funding cut. Agencies responsible for ethics oversight faced systematic budget restrictions. So the systematic weakening of oversight mechanisms during Trump's presidency has created an environment where conflicts of interest can operate without traditional constraints, breaking with 50 years of precedent in government ethics practices. Judicial and legal system integration. So Emil Bove nomination, the May 28, 2025 nomination of Emil Bove, Trump's former criminal defense attorney, to federal's appeals court demonstrates how the justice system itself becomes integrated into the family's interest protection network. Criminal referral, the Federal Housing Finance Agency's criminal referral against New York Attorney General Letitia James. This suggests systematic use of government power to protect family business interests from legal challenges. And this continued monitoring. The Trump organization continues operating under court-ordered independent monitoring due to previous fraud convictions, with the New York court ordering continued oversight of financial disclosures and asset transfers. So, what's the systemic impact on US governance? The Trump presidency has established completely new precedents for how presidential power can be systematically leveraged for private financial gain, while traditional oversight mechanisms have proven inadequate to address conflicts at this scale and complexity. I mean, you've heard things like these happening in India and some other countries in the past, but now it's like happening in the US. There you have it. Um, so there are new models for monetizing presidential power. This is the establishment of new precedents. There's traditional oversight mechanisms that are being overwhelmed. So there's a strain on democratic institutions. Foreign governments are able to leverage business partnerships, which means that there's now more international influence into domestic US matters potentially. Courts now have become the primary check on presidential power, which is an additional burden on the US judicial system, right? Uh, the establishment of various precedents, the strategic evolution. The cryptocurrency focus represents a strategic evolution in the conflict of interest methodology, moving into lightly regulated sectors where presidential policy influence can directly benefit family investments. This approach demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how to maximize financial gain while minimizing traditional oversight. And this could create a blueprint for future exploitation of presidential authority. There's the international dimension. The international dimension of these operations creates additional complications for the United States, as foreign governments recognize that they can influence US policy through business relationships with the Trump family as long as they are willing to sell their nation. As long as they are willing to sell their nation. So the Pakistan partnership exemplifies this dynamic, where high level diplomatic engagement combines with lucrative business arrangements while regulatory oversight is simultaneously weakened. And this creates a model for foreign influence through commercial relationships, which kind of explains very clearly why Trump interfered while India was destroying Pakistan. And he interfered as an agent of Pakistan. So democratic institution strain. The scale of these business operations strains democratic institutions, US democratic institutions designed for more traditional conflict of interest scenarios. The over 328 lawsuits filed against administration policies, with courts blocking key initiatives in 128 cases, demonstrate how the judicial system has become a primary check now, today, on presidential power, where other oversight mechanisms have failed. The systematic nature of regulatory capture suggests a coordinated approach to removing institutional constraints on family business expansion, representing a fundamental challenge to US democratic governance principles. Conclusion and implications. Let's look at the conclusion. What are the implications? So, the January to June 2025 period thus far of Trump's second presidency represents an unprecedented integration of presidential power with family business interests that fundamentally challenges American government norms. We saw the unprecedented integration, systematic weakening of oversight mechanisms. The Pakistan case study, which is a microcosm of broader patterns. And you see that you have foreign or Pakistani officials in Trump business operations, right? Financial benefits. The net worth of the family is doubled. Hundreds of millions in new deals. There are constitutional concerns, the emoluments clause violations, and so on and so forth, right? And financial benefits to the Trump family are tremendous. The net worth is now in excess of 5 billion. Trading fees from meme coin operations are in excess of $100 million. The annual revenue from across Trump organization entities is in excess of $600 million. So this provides clear evidence that the presidency has become a profit center rather than a public service commitment. The constitutional implications of these arrangements, particularly regarding emoluments and the integrity of foreign policy decision making, will likely reverberate through American political institutions for decades. The systematic nature of these benefits suggests a deliberate strategy to monetize presidential power rather than isolated instances of conflict of interest. What are the long term implications of this for American democracy. So there's a new model of presidential power, systematic integration of public authority with private commercial advantage. There's the strategic evolution of this, the cryptocurrency focus, international expansion, and foreign governmental partnerships represent a very strategic, very calculated approach. Existing frameworks are unable, they are inadequate to contain this modern framework, this modern global business executive power intersection. So this is a challenge to the various institutions. And the US democracy, the US model of democracy needs reforms. It requires new approaches to maintaining separation between public service and private profit. And maybe that's the objective of Trump all doing all this, to usher in the need for such reforms. So understanding these developments requires recognizing that we are now witnessing not merely individual conflicts of interest, but the emergence of a new model of presidential power that systematically integrates political authority with private commercial advantage. The long-term implications of this extend beyond any single presidency. They extend to fundamental questions about whether existing institutional frameworks can contain the intersection of these modern global business operations with executive power, my friends. So this brings us to the end of episode 5 of Geostrategy. We discussed the aviation, the air crash in Ahmedabad, and then we discussed the Trump family business empire and its unprecedented growth in the first months of the Trump presidency. Growth that would not have happened if Trump were not president. So clearly, the presidency has benefited Trump's business interests and the business interests of his family. It has tremendously benefited the nation of Pakistan, and it has led to Trump intervening and interfering directly in favor of Pakistan against India. I hope that these matters are now a little more clear from the presentation which we just did. So this brings me to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If this brought in some value for you, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions, you can join me in the Ask Abhijit session that is about to begin as soon as this episode ends. So thank you for watching, and I will see you hopefully in the Ask Abhijit live stream. Thank you. Bye-bye.